Established in 2017, after the legalization of adult use cannabis at the state and local level, the Department of Cannabis Regulation, also referred to as DCR, is responsible for cannabis business licensing and advising the city on cannabis laws, policies, and programs. Through DCR's efforts, the city has begun, for the first time, to license and thereby legally authorize cannabis businesses' operations across the industry's supply chain from indoor cultivation to retail and delivery. Furthermore, through the efforts led by DCR, the city is actively developing and implementing business and workforce programming available through the city's Social Equity Program to promote equitable ownership and employment opportunities in the cannabis industry in order to decrease disparities in life outcomes for marginalized communities and to address the disproportionate impacts of the war on drugs in those communities. Though these efforts are underway, DCR recognizes that there are still many questions and concerns about cannabis in our community, and also recognizes that current laws about cannabis continue to have significant impacts on communities and issues that are important to communities like community health and safety, safe access to cannabis and cannabis products, and racial and economic equity. And these laws and policies continue to have wide-ranging impacts on Angelenos, especially on marginalized communities. This was the genesis of Spark, an initiative to get feedback from key and local stakeholders on issues that matter to and impact the LA community. Through Spark, DCR has been able to support and provide the community with access, resources, and knowledge about cannabis activity in the city of Los Angeles. Spark connected with members of the local community and stakeholders impacted by cannabis policy and those seeking to affect cannabis policy to gather feedback that will assist DCR in making stakeholder-informed recommendations to the Commission and the City Council regarding stakeholder-identified priorities.
On April 20th, 2021, the Department of Cannabis Regulation, also known as DCR, launched its Spark initiative. Spark seeks to support and provide access, resources, and knowledge to the local community and our stakeholders on everything cannabis policy and cannabis equity in the city of Los Angeles.
Spark can be categorized into 5 key phases: collecting feedback, analyzing feedback, creating a report that details stakeholder feedback, developing recommendations based on stakeholder feedback. Some recommendations may be able to be implemented by DCR and the CRC. Others may require action by city council committees and city leadership. Now the stakeholder feedback has been collected, we are now finalizing our analysis of the feedback and drafting a report that will detail the Spark program and feedback received. Let's do a quick recap of what we've done so far. Spark launched on April 20th, 2021, with a blast of communications sent to stakeholders, the launch of a dedicated webpage on the DCR website, and opening of the Spark virtual meeting room. In addition, MBI Media organized a local media blitz including interviews with local stations, features on social media, and targeted communications sent from publishers. One component of Spark was the Spark Sessions. Spark Sessions were virtual events dedicated to a specific topic DCR was seeking community feedback on, including licensing and regulation, the Social Equity Program, corporate social responsibility, and community impact. The first Spark session was held on April 28th, and the last was held on June 12th. 7 of the 8 Spark sessions included a stakeholder comment period, and the last 4 sessions included breakout rooms where stakeholders were able to communicate with each other, provide responses to direct prompts, and share recommendations which were chronicled on session whiteboards. More than 500 people attended the Spark sessions. The Spark campaign also included 4 surveys that stakeholders could take. These surveys were substantive and were specific to topics designated by DCR. These surveys will provide DCR with direct feedback from all participants on existing policies and programs and ways we can expand services and programs. About 200 surveys were taken throughout the campaign. Another way DCR received feedback from stakeholders during Spark was through the virtual meeting room's Spark comment box. The Spark comment box was a comment collection box that allowed members of the community and stakeholders to submit feedback to DCR. More than 125 responses were received through the comment box. Starting in July, MBI Media began hosting a series of one-on-one stakeholder interviews. These interviews were in-depth conversations with key cannabis policy and social equity stakeholders. Those interviewed included regulators for the state of California, regulators from other jurisdictions, local social equity applicants, and community-based organization leaders. As part of Spark, MBI will make available in the coming weeks a video that features the diverse voices of stakeholders participating in efforts to document the impact that cannabis policies have on communities and inform and shape cannabis policy reform at the local, state, and national level. By uplifting the voices of these stakeholders, DCR aims to center equity in its efforts to advise the city on cannabis policies and programs. Spark is providing DCR with valuable observations, assessments, and recommendations needed to draft policy recommendations that reflect the needs of stakeholders. Some of the issues identified as most important to stakeholders included the following topics: licensing and regulation, social equity program eligibility and available resources, corporate social responsibility, community impact, department operations and resources, community reinvestment, tax rates and increased transparency regarding use of cannabis tax revenue, compliance, enforcement regarding unlicensed cannabis businesses, increased access to capital for social equity program participants, and increased transparency in license application processing procedures, accessibility of licensing assistance, license application processing timelines, expedited application processing, department communications, the establishment of a community and stakeholder working group, event licenses and on-site consumption, and providing additional social equity programming.
Spark is one way that community members and stakeholders can stay connected to the Department of Cannabis Regulation, or DCR. The other ways that you can stay connected to the department is through the DCR website, the DCR email list, and through different DCR initiatives such as the Social Equity Program and our licensing program. Thank you for participating in the Spark Initiative. We appreciate your feedback and your assistance in helping us shape the future of cannabis policy here in Los Angeles.